Hello everyone, I Sameeha am here to discuss briefly about a romantic poet, William Blake, that has been prescribed in his syllabus, and one of his very famous poems, that is the songs of Innocence and Experience. So initially, we'll discuss about William Blake, his living conditions, in what conditions he lived, about his family, where was he born, because you must have noticed in till your second semester that to understand or interpret a work, knowing the creator, that is the poet, the dramatist, or the author, is very much important to understand a text. So we follow the same pattern. We talk about the life of William Blake, and then we'll begin with the poem Songs of Innocence and Experience. William Blake. William Blake was born on 28th November 1757 and he died on 12th August 1827 when he was 70 years of age. He was a poet, he was a painter, and a printer from England. Blake, he was mostly unknown during his lifetime, but today he is regarded as a pivotal figure in the development of Romantic era poetry and visual arts. His paintings, his poetries have been classified as romantic and pre romantic. He has been described as a significant early proponent of both romanticism and nationalism. By turns whimsical and brilliant, and yet somehow simple, this British poet, William Blake, expanded the boundaries of poetry both with language and with visuals to create a body of work that has been among the most loved in the English language. Known for more for his visual arts than his poetry during his lifetime, Blake's poetry was often illustrated by his own drawings and woodcuts. While illustrated books of poetry and prose were highly unheard of in Blake's time, Blake he was dissatisfied with the current methods of printing, began experimenting with the process himself, eventually creating new forms altogether. In the previous slide, we got a brief idea of who William Blake was. In the present slide, let's get to know William Blake a little better. William Blake, he was born in London in 1757. His father's name was James, who was a hosier. Now, what is a hosier? Hosier is a seller or a manufacturer of tights, socks, or stockings. And his mother's name was Catherine Blake. Two of his six siblings died in infancy. From early childhood, Blake spoke of having visions, but obviously no one believed him. When he was 4 years of age, he saw God put his head to the window. Around the age of 9, while walking through the countryside, he saw a tree filled with angels. Although his parents tried to discourage him from lying, they did observe that he was different from his peers and did not force him to attend conventional school. He learned to read and write at home. At the age of 10, he expressed a wish to become a painter, so his parents sent him to a drawing school. 2 years later, Blake began to write poetry. When he turned 14, he apprenticed with an engraver because art school was way too costly. One of Blake's assignments at apprentice was to sketch the tombs at Westminster Abbey, exposing him to a variety of Gothic styles from which he would draw inspiration throughout his career. After his 7-year term ended, he studied for a short time at the Royal Academy. In 1782, he married an illiterate woman named Catherine Butcher. Blake taught her to read and to write, and also instructed her in draftsmanship. Later, she helped him print the illuminated poetry for which he is remembered today. The couple had no children, and for the remainder of his family, Blake made a major living as an engraver and illustrator for books and magazines. In addition to his wife, Blake also began training his younger brother Robert in drawing, painting, and engraving. But unfortunately, Robert fell ill during the winter of 1787 and he died. As Robert died, Blake saw his brother's spirit rise up through the ceiling. And what vision he had that his soul was clapping its hands for joy. He believed that Robert's spirit continued to visit him and later claimed that in a dream Robert taught him the printing method that he used in Songs of Innocence and other illuminated works. So I believe knowing William Blake with this much information is enough. Obviously, there is more to William Blake's life, but in the next slide, we'll I'll provide you the list of all the works of William Blake. So these are some of the famous poems of William Blake. That is The Tiger, A Poison Tree, The Lamp, The Little Black Boy, The Chimney Sweeper, and Did Those Feet in Ancient Time, The Sick Rose, London, The Garden of Love, and Holy Thursday. These are some of his works, some of his famous works, and as you can see in the table, on the left hand side it's the name of the works, and on the right hand side you can see the year of their publishing. Songs of Innocence and Experience. It has been divided into two parts. William Blake has collaborated. First, he wrote the Songs of Innocence, and later he wrote Songs of Experience, and he gradually formed the work in a collaboration, which he named the Song of Innocence and of Experience. The Songs of Innocence and of Experience is a collection of illustrated poems by William Blake. It appeared in two phases. A first few copies were printed and illuminated by Blake himself in 1789. 5 years later, he bound these poems with a set of new poems in a volume titled Song of Innocence and of Experience, showing the two contrary states of the human soul. Innocence and experience are definitions of consciousness that rethink Milton's existential mystic states of paradise and fall. Often, interpretations of this collection center around a mystical dualism, where innocence represents the unfallen world and experience represents the fallen world. Blake categorizes our modes of perception that tend to coordinate with the chronology that would become standard in Romanticism. Childhood is a state of protected innocence rather than original sin, but not immune to the fallen world and its institutions. Firstly, we talk about Songs of Innocence. Songs of Innocence was originally a complete work, first printed in 1789. It is a conceptual collection of 19 poems engraved with artwork, as you can see in the picture, uh, the engravement of the artwork. This collection mainly shows happy, innocent perceptions in pastoral harmony, but at times, such as in the poems like Chimney Sweeper and The Little Black Boy, it subtly shows the dangers of this naive and vulnerable state. So, the list of the contents of the poem are listed in the table below. That is the introduction, the shepherd, the echoing green, the lamb, the tiger, the little black boy, the blossom, the chimney sweeper, the little boy lost, the little boy found, laughing song, a cradle song, the divine image, holy Thursday, night, spring, nurse's song, infant joy, a dream on another's sorrow. So these are the contents of the first section, that is the Songs of Innocence. You can go through the details yourself because these are short poems and going through them would not be such a hard work. The Songs of Experience is a poetry collection of 26 poems forming the second part of William Blake's Songs of Innocence and Experience. This poem this collection of poems were published in 1794. Some of the poems, such as The Little Girl Lost and The Little Girl Found, were moved by Blake to Songs of Innocence and were frequently moved between the two books. So, the following table is the content of the Songs of Experience, that is Introduction, Earth's Answer, The Clod and the Pebble, Holy Thursday, The Little Girl Lost, The Little Girl Found, The Chimney Sweeper, Nurse's Song, The Sick Rose, The Fly, The Angel, The Tiger, My Pretty Rose Tree, Ah, Sunflower, The Lily, The Garden of Love, The Little Vagabond, London, The Human Abstract, Infant Sorrow, A Poison Tree, A Little Boy Lost, A Little Boy Found, the Tirza, the Schoolboy, the Voice of the Ancient Bard. So you can read in detail about these 26 poems in detail. You can Google them and you'll certainly get the material online. Blake's Songs of Innocence and Experience, published in 1794, juxtapose the innocent pastoral world of childhood against an adult world of corruption and repression. Now, I hope you're familiar with the word juxtapose, which means comparing or contrasting two different things. Uh, while such poems as The Lamb represent a meek virtue, poems like The Tiger exhibit opposing darker forces. Thus, the collection as a whole explores the value and limitations of two different perspectives of the world. Many of the poems fall into pairs so that the same situation or problem is seen through the lens of innocence first and then experience. Blake does not identify himself wholly with the either views. Most of the poems are dramatic, that is, in the voice of a speaker other than the poet himself. Blake stands outside innocence and experience, in a distant position from which he hopes to be able to recognize and correct the fallacies of both. In particular, he pities himself against despotic authority, restrictive morality, sexual repression, and institutionalized religion. His great insight is into the way these separate modes of control work together to squelch what is mostly holy in human beings. The Song of Innocence dramatizes the naive hopes and fears that inform the lives of children and trace their transformation as the child grows into adulthood. Some of the poems are written from the perspective of children, while others are about children as seen from an adult perspective. Many of these poems draw attention to the positive aspects of natural human understanding prior to the corruption and distortion of experience. Others take a more critical stance towards innocent purity. For example, while Blake draws touching portraits of the emotional power of rudimentary Christian values, he also exposes over the heads, as it were of the innocent, Christianity's capacity for promoting injustice and cruelty. The Songs of Experience work via parallels and contrasts to lament the ways in which the harsh experiences of adult life destroy what is good in innocence, while also articulating the weaknesses of the innocent perspective. The Tiger, for example, attempts to account for real, negative forces in the universe, which innocence fails to confront. These latter poems treat sexual morality in terms of the repressive effects of jealousy, shame, and secrecy, all of which corrupt the ingenuousness of innocent love. With regret to religion, they are less concerned with the character of individual faith than with the institution of the church, its role in politics, and its effect on society and the individual mind. Experience thus adds a layer to innocence that darkens its hopeful vision while compensating for some of its blindness. So, this was a brief description about the romantic poet, that is William Blake, and one of his very famous works, that is the Songs of Innocence and of Experience. And I hope that all of you got a brief idea about who William Blake was and what was Songs of Innocence and of Experience all about. You can further Google the descriptions or the summaries of the poems that were in the Songs of Innocence and in the Songs of Experience. And you can also find the original artwork of William Blake, as I had posted three of the pictures in the previous slide. You can get the original ones on Google as well. So I hope I was a little bit helpful. So that's all for William Blake and the Songs of Experience and Innocence. Thank you.